Hello, hello, hello. My name is Destina. This is Spiritually Bougie Astrology, and we're going to take a look at the astrological transits for October 16th to October 22nd. Just so everybody's aware, I am recording this the morning of the 16th. An eclipse in your 12th house is exhausting. It already makes you kind of feel run down. An eclipse in your 12th house, while Mars is going over your ascendant, I pretty well was sick all weekend. I was worn down, migraine, not feeling good. I stayed in bed. My dogs took turns being my nurse, getting in and out of bed with me, and they're just like, "Mama, we love you." I said, "I love you too, baby, but your kisses can't help. Your kisses can't help my migraine, but I appreciate the effort." So I am recording this on Monday morning because the universe said, "Go to bed." So I did. Anyways, we are writing an energy from the eclipse, and for a lot of people, this eclipse energy was very exhausting, physically exhausting. The reason we felt that is, again, the South Node is an energy that is attached to the body. So I was exhausted, like I said, 12th house eclipse, but at the same time, other people were exhausted too. And as elements of this week continue, the hits to the South Node will make us more aware energetically in the body of certain things. We are writing the eclipse energy from an eclipse in a cardinal sign. We are still in the bittersweet energy tied to the eclipse. Many people have had internal activations. They know they want to do something. They haven't taken the action yet. And over the course of eclipse season, certain things need to line out so that action can take place. For a lot of people, this week is going to be one of those moments where the internal activations will be resulting in external things. And as the week continues, you will see a very big difference in people. The difference is going to be those internal hits manifesting into an external thing. For some people, that's going to help them start their next chapter because, again, new moon eclipse in a cardinal sign. I call cardinal signs instigators. We're instigating something. We're initiating something. We're starting something. And whatever it is going to be a long-term thing. We have a month of instigating new fixed things in our lives. But in the process of this new thing, this thing that we're instigating, this thing that we're starting, this thing that's starting to unfold in front of us, there's going to be some impatience. There's going to be some push. There's going to be some shove. And for a few people that have still not learned their Venusian lessons from the summer, this week will have consequences to actions. Now that seems very specific, and that's more going to play out over the course of this coming weekend versus the week. If you see people that are more in that Venusian, give me attention energy, that won't play out much longer. So many people, whenever they get grabbed by the energy, they have absolutely no idea what they're getting grabbed by. They just all of a sudden want to react. They want to blow up. They want to growl. They want to hit something. Fragile egos. I'm not just saying masculinity, because I know women that do this stuff too. Fragile egos. Getting butt hurt. We're going to see some butt hurt energy at the end of the week, that's for sure. We're also seeing people taking their very first steps at reclaiming power, personal strength, overcoming past abuse. It is time to turn something around. And I'm very, very keen on the idea of time right now. We're in eclipse season. That's a time. Throughout eclipse season, and even the weeks after, the nodes, which are the things that indicate what signs we're going to have eclipses in, they're going to remain at 24 degrees. Now, they've already been at 24 degrees since the end of September. They will remain at 24 degrees. I'm not going into the minutes, I'm just going on the degree part. They will remain at 24 degrees until the end of November. That means the things that we're working through right now will be a cohesive energy all the way through. A cohesive theme of each thing building off the next towards a certain goal. Good, bad, or ugly, towards a certain goal. The other thing that is indicating time is Saturn. Yeah. Something else started last week, and I mentioned it in last week's episode, but I'm going to put a little bit more emphasis on it now because now we're through the eclipse. Venus and Saturn had an opposition. There was some type of regulation, come down, a butt busting, a verdict, a authoritative issue, something with an elder towards Venus. And right now, Venus is no longer in mutual reception with the sun. That also ended last week. Her mutual reception is going to be with Mercury all throughout the rest of this week. And there is this final element of the people that have been supporting Venus, helping Venus, doing things with people that have been attached to Venus energy. And that's what I mean when I say it by the planet. You can always tell when somebody is going through activations tied to a certain planet. If they're just chilling and not doing a whole lot, then they're probably being activated by a planet that's not going through transits. That's not doing a whole lot. Saturn is one of those planets because Saturn is stationing. Saturn rules time. Saturn rules karma. This was an eclipse attached to the South Node. If you know a lot about the South Node is an indicator of things from past lives and the karma we bring from past lives. This eclipse cycle is meant to be one that takes us into the completion of karmic contracts, things that we've been serving out, sometimes for a few years. For some people, it's been 17, 18 years. Why? Because that's how long ago it was that the South Node was in Libra. People that were in a 17-year contract of some sort, it fell away. Some people are wrapping up a 30-year contract. That's tied to Saturn. Saturn is going to be at 0 degrees as of last week, all the way until the end of November. The nodes at 24 degrees all the way until the end of November. The end of eclipse season, middle of November. But what follows the end of eclipse season? Mars's rebirth, which takes us all the way into the end of November. The dynamic of what is started throughout the weekend's energy and going into this week is going to be rapid movement for some, hard hits that can no longer be hidden for others. Sometimes when people are doing things for attention and they're not getting the attention that they want, they do things that's to their own detriment. Venus is going to do something else that's to her own detriment this week, and it is going to remove support. I was meditating the best that I could over the course of the weekend. Let's be honest about that. Because I wrote out all my notes, and then I was basically like playing out in my head as I'm laying on the bed. Little things would pop through, not just like a constant source of I want to think about the same thing over and over again. It was kind of like I'd wake up and feel something and think of a transit and get more to it. So, interesting. Migraine meditation. I do not recommend. Let's be clear about that. I do not recommend. But had a lot of that this weekend. And I'm still on my coffee. So just bear with me. There are elements to this week that is going to be the start of new karmic contracts and new karmic connections. And to be clear, not every karmic connection, not every past life connection is meant to be horrible. Many of us will put our charts next to like our best friend for years, our siblings, our parents, and we can see karmic connections. A lot of those will have to do with the South Node. I've said this before in other episodes. Sometimes it's not about the natal placement in the South Nodes. What it is it's about the transits going over and activating parts of your chart. And people that have placements in the late degrees of Libra and Capricorn and Cancer and Aries this weekend, you're going to feel some things. You're going to notice some things. You already noticed some based off of the eclipse that just happened, and we're going to be feeling more going into this next week. We're in the process of starting a new cycle. Karma is going to be attached to that, good, bad, or ugly. Starting a new cycle. For a lot of people, that cycle can be based off consequences. For a lot of people, we're breaking a former karmic cycle. We're letting something go. But not everybody has been able to let things go yet. Some of y'all are stubborn because you don't like change. Here's the deal. There's a part of the energy this weekend that if you are the one that you don't like change and you think you're going to make the best of everything in this world and it can be sunshine and rainbows, I just have to believe it. I'm not making fun of you. I'm telling you exactly your own words. It'll get better. It'll get better. I promise, babies. Be careful. Be careful. Because there is a very interesting dynamic to how the week is going to play out. So let's get into the transits. It is Monday morning when I'm recording this. It is Monday morning when we're starting this. And the only big transits of today, it's not even big. Between 5:30 and 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, and I've got this at 8:30, so this is like 8 a.m. Between 5:30 and 8 a.m. Central Standard Time, the moon had an opposition to Jupiter. Some of us woke up feeling very inclined to correspond with somebody, to talk to somebody, to ask a question. We need an answer. Some of us, we are anticipating the diagnosis. We're anticipating something from a doctor. Some of us feel very, very called to talk to our guru, our spiritual advisor, somebody that inclines and instigates hope inside of us, somebody that gives us a different level of support. You know that those people are, whenever you talk to them, you just automatically feel better. I just want you to know I love you. I love you too. The moon's opposition to Jupiter is a hopeful energy. There is a soft interaction, nothing too crazy. And after this, there's not really a whole lot going on. So for a lot of people, Monday, it's internal. It's just processing. Mars is still in those very first degrees of Scorpio. We're still processing. I said last week when Mars went into Scorpio, there's something about a blank slate. That's what I kept hearing for months going into this part of the transit. Mars entering Scorpio is like, it's a blank slate. We need certain things to occur while Mars is going through Scorpio to instigate new long-term fixed disruptions, but we're not getting those right now. So we're still in the process mode. We're still trying to get our bearings about us. We're trying to get caught up at work. This is a good day to get caught up with work. This is a good day to just get a few things going, but there's just nothing crazy. Now, some of us are going to be overthinking a situation. We're going to feel drawn to talk to somebody and say something. And a lot of people, whatever gets drawn throughout the day, it's not just in the morning. Over the course of the day, we're going to be feeling very, very drawn to talk to someone, to communicate something, to interact with somebody. And it will feel very unexpected. And depending on where you're at, remember, I'm in Oklahoma, so everything I do is Central Standard Time. This can come through in the evening time tonight or the morning time tomorrow. Two reasons why. One, Mercury. Mercury rules communication. Mercury rules our logical mind. Mercury also rules transportation, mercantile type things, so we can be very called to suddenly buy something this evening. That can be a part of it, but Mercury will start going over the eclipse degree from the weekend this evening going into tomorrow morning. The eclipse again was at 21 degrees. Mercury starts going over 21 degrees this evening. So this is at 6:30 p.m. Literally over the course of the last hour, Mercury hit 21. While this is at this point, I'm going to remind everybody, Mercury and Venus are in mutual reception. They're in a house swap. Every time Mercury's doing something, it affects Venus. Every time Venus goes through something, it affects Mercury. Many of us are going to spend the day overthinking, overdoing. This is all going to be internal mental. We're going to be feeling compelled to do something. And again, either later this evening or tomorrow morning, we're going to want to have some type of sudden communication, or we will be the ones getting a very sudden communication. And the other reason I say that is because of the moon. Now, for me, this happens literally at the end of Monday going into Tuesday. Between 11 p.m. Central Standard Time, the moon is going to hit an opposition to Uranus. So this goes between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. Central Standard Time. This is why I was saying for a lot of people, this is either going to happen in the morning, tomorrow, or later this evening. Uranus is in Venus's sign. The eclipse point in Venus's sign is being activated by the planet of communication. Simultaneously, the sun, which rules the ego, which has been hosting Venus all damn summer, so is very, very aware of all the Venusian energy because its break has only lasted about a week. The sun is coming very, very close to the south node. We are feeling very, very compelled to get an answer, to have a conversation, to have an interaction, to do something that is going to impact the ego. Now, the energy that I'm talking about, I feel for a lot of people, it's going to play out more Tuesday and later in the week, not so much Monday. So we're going to keep rolling this into Tuesday just for the sake of the numbers and keep going. So moon still opposite Uranus. We're at 1:30 a.m. on Tuesday, October 17th. Mercury is on that eclipse point. Mercury is in mutual reception with Venus. We're not expecting communication. We're not expecting that phone call. We're not expecting something. There is an energy of manifestation that is playing out. That is either going to do something that hurts the ego, Sun conjunct the South Node, not exact yet, but it is building, or it's going to offer peace to the ego. It's going to make us see that a barrier has been removed, has been released, has been undone. This energy of Tuesday can either be very, very hopeful or very, very hurtful. If you are feeling compelled to do something, be aware it is a double-edged sword. The South Node is a body that has been removed, cut off, released, cut, discarded, outgrown. Are we ever going to fix this relationship? Are you really going to commit to therapy? No, I think I'm done. That cuts, that hurts deep. Yeah, that kind of thing. Especially if you've been patient and you've been waiting for somebody to pull their head out of their ass. It can hurt. It can cut. It can hurt real deep. Anyways, the moon's opposition to Uranus, again, between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. So this is literally from one day to the next for me. The next morning, so Tuesday morning, the moon is going to make a trine to Neptune. Mercury is still over that eclipse point, and there's going to be internally a very hazy, clouded, confused. If you did do that sudden communication the night before, like hurt, if it went well, romanticized. Some people, you did do that sudden communication and it went well, so now we're kind of feeling nostalgic. I knew he still loved me. Moon trine Neptune. There can be a bit of a nostalgic feeling to it. But for a lot of people, the day is going to feel very surreal. A lot of Tuesday feels surreal. A lot of Tuesday feels like we're waiting on a shift. We're waiting on an appointment. We're waiting on an interview. We're waiting on an answer. We're waiting to do something. And while we're in the waiting mode, it's like all of us are in NPC mode of just like click, 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 click. I know TikTok does the NPC thing. I don't even know if that's still a trend right now. Thanks for the papers. Thanks for the papers. I don't know. It's the only thing I can think of. And you might actually kind of see that rotation whenever you're around people. You go to the gas station and that person that's doing your checkout, like they're so detached that you feel like you're talking to an NPC. You go get your coffee and nobody's connected. Very surreal energy to parts of Tuesday. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that we wake up to this energy of the sun and this trine to Neptune. But we also are waking up with, again, the moon and the trine to Neptune. But we're also waking up to the sun getting closer to the south node. Now, this will not go exact until Wednesday morning, but it starts going more exact throughout the day on Tuesday. There is a shedding of the ego internally that's coming through. Not everybody can handle shedding very, very well. Some people are going to be foggy because they can feel literally something inside is just, I don't know what's wrong with me today. And if we don't know what's wrong, it makes us emotional. The moon is in Scorpio. Deep emotions can suddenly come through. A deep-seated wound that needs to heal. And we won't really snap out of this surreal energy until the afternoon. So, the moon's trine to Neptune, the most exact between 5:30 a.m. and 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. I've got this at 5:30. The next thing that happens is the moon is going to hit a sextile to Pluto. We have this right here. This goes the most exact between 9 a.m. and 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, so going into lunch. In some ways where we did have a sudden communication last night with the moon's opposition to Uranus, and it wasn't, that person that we've been waiting to hear from. It was the boss. It was like, hey, I need to talk to you tomorrow. I need to meet with you. We need to talk. We need to do something. We need to do something tomorrow. Now, I specifically say tomorrow because of how things are going. And I feel like a lot of times with some of the Uranus transits, if it's not a sudden communication of, I need help with something, or can you give me guidance or give me something else? A lot of times, the Uranus transits are leading to the next Saturn transit. And that's what I've more picked up on. So the night before, the moon made an opposition to Uranus. We need to talk tomorrow. I have appointments all morning. I meet you in the afternoon. We can meet after lunch. We can meet around X time. And X time for a lot of people is going to literally be afternoon. So for me, the moon is going to go into Sag at 2:36 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we're in this foggy, hazy energy. when the moon hits that sextile to Pluto, and Pluto is in Saturn's sign, there's kind of this energy of just like, hey, you want to go to lunch? No, I want to make sure I have everything lined out. I'm supposed to meet with the boss later. You didn't say you had a meeting with the boss. We just talked about this yesterday. Yeah, I know. He asked me really late last night, and I don't know what it's about, but I don't want to be not prepared. And for some people, there is a fear. Because again, the sun is coming into this conjunction with the south node. There is a cut coming for a lot of people. A release coming for a lot of people. The next stage of a purge is going to come for a lot of people this week. And it's either going to come with the sun or it's going to come with Mercury. The sun is first, so I'm more focused on the sun. Now, after the moon sextile to Neptune, the moon's going to go void. So again, we're in the same hazy, reclusive, almost solemn type energy all day until we get to the afternoon. And again, 2:36 p.m. Central Standard Time, that's when the moon is going to go into Sag, and it immediately goes into a square with Saturn. We're in this haze energy all day. We're waiting for something to happen. We're waiting for an action. We're waiting for an event. We're waiting for a conversation. We're waiting to get to this appointment for grandpa. We're waiting to hear back from the authorities. We're waiting to finally sit down and talk to somebody that is an authority figure of some sort. Now, when I say authority, because I'm getting more and more people that are listening to me for the first time, and I'm grateful for that. When I say authority figures, I don't necessarily always mean like your boss, and I don't necessarily always mean the cops. It can be a lawyer, social worker, counselor type people, but like think DHS, not your therapist, because therapist is going to be more Jupiter. Authority figures can also be the authority in their position. If you are a nurse, you are not necessarily going to be skilled to fix something in the house, to replace your roof, to do something with a plumber. Sometimes the authority figure that we're talking about is going to be the person that is an authority figure to what they know. So not necessarily an authority figure over you, but another situation. You're waiting all day for the roofer to come. You're waiting all day for something to happen. And then we get to the afternoon and the energy hits with the moon square to Saturn. There's something about this moon and Sag transit that I feel like we're going to feel it in a better place than the last two times the moon has been in Sag. We're going to have a very different feeling in this energy. Now, I'm going to remind everybody, last week, the moon made us the moon conjoined Venus whenever it did the opposition to Saturn. So for some people, whatever happens Tuesday afternoon can be a continuation or a questioning of previous events. Because again, right afterwards, Saturn started to station. So that means a lot of the topics that we're going to start going through whenever it comes to Saturn are going to be a continuous feed of the same situation. There's a questioning of authorities, about an elder, how something is going to work. How can we turn something around? Because again, Saturn is stationing. Some people, you have been distant from family members. I'm just going to go with this example. For quite some time. But now both the moon and Saturn are in Jupiter signs. So there's a hopefulness all of a sudden. I'm kind of hopeful. Maybe something has changed. And the questioning between the moon and Saturn here can be a part of that relief, the barrier removal, the internal change of the sun and Ketu, the sun and the south node. So, is mom really acting different? Is mom really working on her healing process? Mom really going to therapy? Mom really going to AA? We really doing this? Is Uncle Joe really doing this? What's Grandpa been doing? How is Grandpa doing? The questioning is either to the authorities, to the elder, or about them. Are things actually getting better? is this questioning. For some people, it's going to be about last week. Did you really tell them off? Did you really tell them that? Did you really say this? Fuck yeah, I did. Yes. I said what I meant, and I meant what I said. You're damn right. Huh. Okay. Why? Because so-and-so asked if I would talk to them, and I knew there was something that happened last week, and, you know, Venus, she's always saying something, because it was the Venus opposition to Saturn. And this eclipse was in Venus' sign. Yeah, I said this. Yeah, we're not talking no more. Yeah, they're going to AA. Yeah, this is happening. In a lot of ways, there is a confirmation, because Saturn being retrograde is moving towards the moon while the moon is moving towards Saturn. So there is this confirmation-like energy in the moment. And again, it can be one of two things. It could be something that recognizes the internal release of a barrier, or it's going to hit a little bit harder regarding something that needs to change. Some of you are going to go into the boss. The boss is going to question, what the hell is going on? What happened now? There was things last week. Now there's new things this week. What happened over the weekend? I don't know what you're talking about. Just expect it. For some people, the moon square to Saturn is going to hit a little bit harder. For most people, though, I don't think it's going to be that hard. I think the harder hit is going to come the next day. So the moon square to Saturn, it goes the most exact between 2:30 p.m. and 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. So adjust for your time zones. And then after that, there's not a whole lot going on. The main thing that is going on, though, is the sun getting closer to the south node. So after we have that questioning moment, after we have that interjection with the authority figure, with our elder, we're talking about them, we're trying to work through something. After we get the answer, after we get said information, after we get more time to process, we feel like we can ask another set of questions. Now, there's only one transit to Wednesday. So I feel like for a lot of people, this kind of feeds into the energy for everybody. So I've got this right here. The sun and the south node's conjunction, it goes the most exact between 7:26 a.m. and 7:49 a.m. That is the exact based off of like degree and minute. And that's why I'm saying it that way. This is occurring while one particular transit is happening, and then there's no other transits Wednesday. So there's one dynamic to the day astrologically. Now, if you got your own natal chart being activated in this moment, I'm not talking about that. That's what individual readings are for. This is just transits. Venus is squaring the moon. Venus is the host of the sun. For some people, this is going to play back to things from last week. Well, Saturn was mean to me, and Saturn said this, and Saturn hurt my feelings, and Saturn, and the moon is in Sag going, I talked to Saturn yesterday, and their way of talking about all this was very, very different from yours. Why? Because Venus has been showing her ass all summer, and Saturn is trying to work through problems and trauma and emotional things, and taking a different level of accountability and responsibility. That's why Saturn said, I said what I meant, and I meant what I said. I'm sick of her shit. Some people that have been leaning into Venus activations do not feel like they've been showing their ass this summer. They're my feelings, they're wrong. Venus is in the higher authority. Venus is squaring the moon. Venus is pushing, but the sun is coming into a conjunction to the south node. Some of us are going to push on Wednesday, and we're going to get a hit back. We're going to get a clap back. We're going to get a humbling in this energy. Jupiter is retrograde. Jupiter wants to heal. Jupiter wants to be able to get things done. Jupiter is also being hosted by Venus. So Jupiter is very, very aware of Venus showing her ass. There were 3 squares to Jupiter this summer. Jupiter's very aware that Venus has been showing her ass. And the moon is moving forward. The moon never goes back retrograde. If the moon's going back retrograde, like, we got a whole different set of problems. So Venus is pushing for the moon. Did you talk to Saturn? Did you do this? Did you help me? Did you get this figured out? Did you get me any answers? I'm like, how about you go talk to Saturn again? No, they hurt my feelings. I want to talk to them. Okay. What do you want me to do about it? Do you think I'm going to fix it? You asked me to talk. You asked me to correspond. You asked me to do something. And those that are being activated by Venus, this is going to be a very emotionally shaky day. Because something internally is going to crumble. It's going to hit hard. For some people, it is a barrier. The moon square to Venus will be like, yeah, so I talked to Susie, and they are in fact getting divorced, and I would like to be able to show my support to her because, he was an ass. Things have been going on. There's something that's been bigger. There's something that's been deeper. There is a questioning in this energy. And what some people are going to see is like a barrier fall away. An internal barrier of, well, maybe this won't be so bad. Maybe things can turn around. Maybe things can be better. And this can be a manifestation of shaky confidence. But at the same time, this can shake your confidence. Because we still have a humbling in the energy for certain people that have not been able to accept the dynamic. Again, karmic breaks, karmic contracts. Anyone that comes through this week, anybody that's new, can potentially be a past life connection. Be aware of that energy. Someone from the past can suddenly feel the need to come through. That ex-boyfriend, that ex-girlfriend. Hey, can we talk? Might not happen specifically on Wednesday. It can happen anywhere this week. That's somebody from the past. You run into somebody and you're like, oh, you're back in town? Yeah, I just moved back. I got divorced. Oh, what are you doing this weekend? Where's a bunch of us getting together? You should come catch up. That kind of questioning. And again, a barrier. It didn't have to be a horrible barrier. Some people, the barrier, we didn't even know it was a barrier. We didn't know there was a wedge, an energetic wedge. And now all of a sudden, phew, you want to come over? And for some people, this is really going to be like you interacting with somebody that you used to have an issue with. And all of a sudden, not so much of an issue. Something falls away, an internal falling. Or it's going to be an internal cut, an internal hit to that ego. There's going to be good, bad, and ugly for everybody. Venus pushing the moon. What did Saturn say? You know what? Whatever Saturn said to me is me and Saturn's business. You said you needed to talk about how you were feeling. Let's talk about your shit. And ultimately, that's not what Venus wanted to hear. Venus needs to be humbled. The only transit to Wednesday is this right here. It happens in the morning. After that, it's not that the moon's going to go void. It's just that there's not a whole lot going on. So again, there's that hit. You need to rethink your way of doing things, Venus. You need to rethink the situation. Some of us are in the process of rethinking the situation. Well, maybe if mom really is committed to doing this, committed to healing and not being this person anymore, not going to the casino every week and gambling, not always going to the bar, not always doing these things. If dad is not always doing these things, maybe, just maybe, things, okay. And we start to consider and we start to think about things. And there's a lot of thinking, hopeful thinking for most people. reality thinking for others, a slap of reality as we go through Wednesday. Now, after the Sun South Node conjunction goes exact, the next thing it's going to start to build is Mercury's conjunction to the South Node. This does not go exact on the 18th. This actually is going to go exact on the 19th. We're just going straight into Thursday. Get up here. And the Moon South Node conjunction, not the Moon, Mercury's South Node conjunction, it actually hits right after midnight for me. So it goes the most exact between 12:24 a.m. and 12:37 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can see Mercury in the South Node is right here. The moon isn't doing anything. Nobody else is doing anything at this exact moment. So the internal barrier of the Sun in the South Node, for some people, this is going to be that internal shake that something needs to change, and we need that physical event between the Venus-Moon square to be that humbling energy, to hit the ego in a certain way. And afterwards, we're dwelling on it. All of us get in that mode in one way, shape, or form that after we have a tension moment, after we have an argument, after we have something going on, after somebody came down on us and put us in our place, we get mad, we growl, we grumble, but then we start to overthink and we start playing that situation again in our head over and over and over and over and over and over again. And the thing is, not both sides are doing that. For some people, only one side is doing that. The moon kept going. She kept doing her thing. The person that got humbled, Venus, and people being activated by Venus, they started to dwell. And they started to get hurt. And they started to overthink. And then by the evening time, Mercury has hit the South Node. Now again, I'm saying evening because we're in the overnight hours. We're now into Thursday. This is going to happen late at night. So what some of us can spend the entire day feeling something, and not necessarily knowing just why something doesn't feel right, why something is feeling wrong, what something below the surface, something tied to the heart chakra, something tied to the intestines. We feel something going wrong. Our body tells us things. People don't realize that. Libra risings are learning that right now. The more in tune they are with their body, the more messages that you get. The Mercury South Node conjunction goes exact right after midnight for me. We feel like we can communicate something. The next barrier is removed. The next shift internally, the next idea, the next breakthrough. There's a lot of breakthrough type energy, internal things going on that are going to start to amount to more external things after we start getting deeper into Thursday. So let's keep going into Thursday, and we're going to get to one point of the sky. And then I'm pretty well going to leave it alone for a minute. That's about right. Here, in this area. Okay. So 3 things happen over the course of like a 4-hour span. So I'm going to give a 4-hour span. So for me, this is 12 p.m. Central Standard Time, this lunch, all the way to 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I'm just going to give it a whole element. There's a lot more activity. We have a lot more going on. But there's also that middle person type energy going on. Now, I've talked about this before. Mercury and the Sun, they are in a quincunx. They're in conjunct Neptune. They can't see eye to eye. At this moment, though, the Moon is in a square to Neptune while in a sextile to Mercury and the Sun. There's a middle person. Now, for some people, this is talking about, I have this idea. And some people internally the night before have had this idea that they need to purge something, and they need to release something, and they need to heal something, and they need to let something go. And they need to break through the fog, but they don't know how. And they need the assistance of a healer, a guru, a minister, somebody like me, somebody that is in this type of field, woo-woo shit. There's a woo-woo energy here. For some people, it's woo-woo. For other people, I think they lied to me. What? I don't know why. It just keeps bugging me, and I've been thinking about it for weeks, and I just can't let this go, but I think they lied to me. So for some people, this is going to be about a manipulation, a fraud, a lie. For some, it's going to be about healing and spirituality and medicines and ayahuasca and needing guidance. For other people, it is going to be about nostalgia, some level of nostalgia. And when I say nostalgia, I don't just mean your childhood action figures. I also mean the idea of, you know how to do something. Can you tell me how to do it? And you have to recall, you have to think about something from the past. Oh man, I haven't done that in a long time. You have to remember how to do something. And in this moment, we're providing clarity. We're giving the first steps of clarity to another person on how to do something, on what needs to happen next. There's a middleman type energy with the moon. The sun and Mercury cannot see Neptune. I think they lied, but I can't prove it yet. I think they stole, but I can't prove it yet. Well, what do you think they stole? I think they stole X, Y, Z. I think they did this. I think they've been cheating. When I'm saying lies and fraud, manipulation, I'm saying all of it. You think, but you don't know? Yeah. Well, I know whenever they were in this relationship, this was the kind of behavior that she started to say. Because sometimes our friends know just how weak or how much of our weakness we have as we do the other. They know when we're up to shady shit. Our true friends, they know. They know when something's wrong. For some people, it is going to be the woo-woo stuff. I think I want to try ayahuasca, but I don't know anyone else that's done it. Have you done it? I think you do. I think you know how to do these things, and I don't know how to do them. Oh. Well, in the past, this is how I did. This is how it went. This is how this happened. Have you ever done this type of ceremony? Like, I mean, spiritual shit now. Oh. And the moon has the ability to recall how to do something, how to cook, how to perform an act, how to do something. They're going to recall the effect of something, going back to the term of ayahuasca, and they're providing that information to somebody else so they can make a decision. And there is a decision, there is a revelation, there is something that's going to come as we go into Friday. But this is one element in that step. There's going to be a situation where two people are not seeing eye to eye. They are not able to understand one another. There's misinformation, misinterpretation. One person feels lied to, one person feels misled. And in a lot of ways, if there has been the misleading, some people have truly been misled. Other people, they just feel like they've been wronged, and they don't necessarily want to accept accountability for what they have done in the situation, for their part of the actions. This can go both ways. But there's an element of some of us we are the third party person. We are the person talking over here, or we're the person connecting so-and-so to this person they don't know. We are the one providing that connection. I don't know anyone that has done it. Oh, I got somebody. I got my medicine woman. I got my shaman. I got my person over here. I know somebody who can help you. Some of us were the third person. Some of us were going to get the call going, hey, I know you've never met these people, but like, they're cool. I trust them. Can you work with them? Can you help them? Can you do this for my friend? And there is that connection, again, of two people that are not from the same background, are not from the same energy, are not seeing eye to eye, have no reason to know one another. And we're the ones getting connected with this other person. these other people, this other situation we have nothing to do with. There is a need and an aid for connection here. That again goes the most exact between 12 p.m. and 4 p.m. for the most part. Now, after this, the moon's going to go void. So transit-wise, that happens in that time span, but it can happen at any time throughout the day. After the moon goes void, whatever that final energy was in that activation, like, we're aware. And it kind of becomes the theme of what we want to do for the rest of the evening, what we're dealing with for the rest of the day, until we get to 8:35 p.m. Central Standard Time. So I got this at 9:30. This is just afterwards. The moon immediately goes into Capricorn, goes into Saturn's sign, and makes a sextile to Saturn. Hey, I talked to them. Hey, something went down. Hey, something happened. Hey, Venus is still showing her ass. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. This energy is cohesive. It's helpful. It's an impression. It's two people seeing eye to eye. The moon is in Saturn's sign after being in Jupiter's sign for the last few days. Like, something that was going across the energy over the last few days. Once we get to this point, we're very settled and grounded, and we recognize certain aspects. But in addition to that, we have this other thing building. Now, this does not go exact on Thursday. It actually goes exact right after midnight on Friday. So we're in the process of building into this. So I'm just going to go and take us into Friday. Just understand that whenever this clarity cazimi, Mercury cazimi that we're getting, for some people, this can happen on Thursday evening. For other people, there's going to be clarity coming through Friday morning. So for me, this goes the most exact between 12:05 a.m. Central Standard Time. So when I said it was just after midnight, I meant that. To 1 a.m. Central Standard Time. Mercury and the Sun make a conjunction. And right now, Mercury's direct. So Mercury's the furthest point out. Mercury's coming into the heart of the Sun, then the Earth. There's something that has been on our minds that we have not been clear about. And I'm going to remind everybody, Mercury is in mutual reception to Venus. Some of this week has been very humbling to people in Venus energy. Humbling. Venus is starting to realize why certain support has been removed. All of this week has been little hits of clarity to her. Some of us got told something in the Venus-Saturn opposition. We were scolded, we were told something, we were given some type of information, we were, put in our place. Some of us, we were the Saturn person, we put somebody in their place, and now that person is just spiraling. Some of us, we were the Venus person, and we are spiraling in one way, shape, or form. And we're getting to a point that either it's a light bulb moment inside, and clarity is going to come through that, oh, maybe I have been an ass. One can be hopeful. Some people, something is going to come to light. And I've said at the beginning of the episode, as we get through parts of this week, the deeper we get to the end of the week, the more internal things are going to manifest into external acts and events. Yeah, that really kind of starts late Thursday going into Friday based off of this Mercury cazimi. Thursday afternoon, we had some physical effects. For some people, that was completely separate from everything else. For other people, whatever happened Thursday afternoon leads to the clarity effect right here that maybe, humbling, maybe we need to check ourselves. Maybe we need to drop the ego. Maybe we need to humble ourselves. Maybe we aren't as strong as we thought. Maybe we aren't all as powerful as we thought. Maybe Saturn was right. Now, there is another effect that is going on with this Mercury cazimi, and it is not exact. We get one element here, and we get the next hits afterwards, and that is this Mercury cazimi is in a square to Pluto, a newly direct Pluto, who's in Saturn's sign. The moon is now in Saturn's sign. I'm going to ask again, think about it. What happened last week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? What happened during the Venus-Saturn opposition? Late on the 8th, Venus went into Virgo. By the late on the 10th, Venus had completed her opposition to Saturn, and Pluto in Saturn's sign had turned direct. There was a turn in events last week, and not everybody was willing to accept that turn of events. So I'm asking again, what happened last week? Right before the eclipse, like going into that eclipse energy. Because for a lot of people, this is going to be the next part of that, the next part in the agenda. It's going to be the next step. Clarity, realizations, epiphanies, Mercury cazimi, based off of a turn in another person, because Pluto is newly direct. Maybe they were right. Maybe I have been an ass. My straw just started moving on my cup. I wish I could turn my camera. That's weird. Anyways, I'm sorry. And this epiphany energy is going to make us want to see another person, how they've overcome a power struggle in some ways. It's going to provide additional clarity in others. It's going to make somebody realize that they can continue the next steps past the barriers removal from the South Node conjunctions. Now, the Mercury cazimi, again, it's right after midnight. That's when that goes exact. By the morning, we're going to start to have our first little sets of transits. So let's keep this going. Between 6 a.m. and 8:30 a.m., the moon is going to go through a little sextile with Mars. There's an intention, a future action, a future activity that is being stated here. A bit of a push. Hey, you want to do something? Hey, you want to get together? Hey, we're going to have a barbecue this weekend. You said mom is doing better? Yeah? Okay. I'm willing to talk about it. I'm willing to let her in a little bit. I'm willing to try it out. We're going to have a get together this weekend. Oh, cool. What time? Do I need to bring anything? Do I need some? Do we need snacks? Do you want soda? You want to bring ice? Do you want to bring anything? Just bring mom. Just bring dad. Just bring them. Oh, okay. Because a barrier has fell. For some people, this is an intention. I'm going to call this weekend. I'm going to start to make things right this weekend. I realize what I want, who I want, what I need to do next. And again, an intention is set. For some people, it's an internal intention. Like you make that decision. You wake up feeling like the decision is right. Okay, yeah, I'm going to call. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take this action. We're going to start this turnaround. The next step in this turnaround. An intention of a future action. The Mars Moon sextile, again, early in the morning, 6 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. I don't feel like everybody is going off and doing some calling. I feel like this is like making a grounded, long-term decision that if it goes well, it can be a long-term situation. Like it in the moment does not feel long-term. I feel like we need the weekend. And I have reasons I say that. We set the intention that we're going to do this communication, that we're going to do this act, that we're going to have this conversation. When we get to the afternoon, so this is going to happen between 3 and 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. But then at the same time, the moon is going to then go into a trine with Jupiter. Now, I'm going to just get this to about 5:30. The moon has just had its trine from Venus. The moon is going into its trine to Jupiter. This is as close to a grand trine as we're going to get. And in some ways, there is a check-in, there is a questioning, there is some type of question in the behavior. There's something about the past and healing based off Jupiter being retrograde. Venus and Mercury are in mutual reception. I'm going to keep bringing this up because it ends this week. But Mercury, while Venus goes through the trine with the moon in Saturn sign, Mercury is also entering its square with Pluto in Saturn sign. Oh, it's time for something. It's time to heal something. It's time for the next step. It's a time for the next part of the dialogue. It's time to take a step, to make an effort, to do something, to communicate the transition. And depending on how well the communication goes from here, depending on how well the weekend goes, really is going to show how intricate the dynamic of the shift in this eclipse season is going to be. Mercury squaring Pluto, we're questioning the transformation, we're questioning the turnaround, we're questioning how things have gone. The moon's trine from Venus, there is meant to be solid level support. Maybe we're doing a group get together. It's not just family, like we're having all of our friends together, like you said, and you're talking to that person about past things, or you're letting the group know, hey, just so everybody's aware, people are going to be here this weekend. And there is always that hidden dynamic that not everybody's aware of. The thing is, not everybody is aware of every single detail of what's going on in other people's lives. So there is elements that we're not going to be completely aware of. You don't know when you're asking Susie if her and Joe are going to come over, if her and Joe have been fighting all week. You don't know. It's not your place to know. Unless they tell you, it's not your place to know. And in some ways, you get one level of support with Venus's trine to the moon of like, yeah, we're totally there. We'll be there. I'm so excited. But on the other side, you got Mercury's square to Pluto going, we're going to this event. We're going to go do this. You need to get your act together. You need to get your shit together. The moon's trine to Jupiter also speaks to, you need to get your shit together. You need to figure something out. You need to get this turned around. You need to get something straight in your head. And in some ways, the moon's trine to Jupiter is coaching how to heal, coaching how to work something through, coaching how to get over something, coaching in some way. Some of us were talking about our healing process. We're seeing the turnaround in another person. We're seeing the first little elements of them coming around and reaching out and this dynamic of communication. And we're hopeful. We're going to be in a restorative hope feeling for a few months. So there can be some hopefulness. But Mercury square to Pluto can also lead to more tension and more arguments. Well, why'd you say we would go? Maybe I don't want to go over there. Maybe I don't want to be around people. If you don't pull your head out of your ass, I swear to God, we're going. We go every year. We always do football weekends with your best friends. We're going. Fine. There can be tensions just as much as there can be support. There can be frustrations and arguments. I don't feel those hit quite yet. If it's an argument, it's just like, why did you agree? Just get over yourself. Anyways, the Mercury-Pluto square, it actually goes the most exact right at the edge of the Moon-Jupiter trine. So I've got this at 7:30. The moon is separating from its trine with Jupiter. Mercury is almost exact on its square. It's 27 degrees, 53 minutes. Pluto is at 27 degrees, 54 minutes. This is an action. This is a questioning. This is a change in the dynamic. Pluto is trying to turn something around. Saturn is stationing all the rest of this month. So we're in the process of turning something around. This is one element of the turnaround. In some ways, if you're helping your parents try to like work through their shit and heal relationships with the rest of the family, like, okay, you can't act like an ass. You can't do these things. I got to remind you of this. Some of us, we have to be the parent to our parent. It happens. Mercury square to Pluto goes the most exact, like I said, by 8 p.m. The numerical part of that is done, but that doesn't mean that the tensions or frustration or the shakiness of the evening is done. In fact, for a lot of people, it's going to be like an angst and anxiety because after Mercury square to Pluto, the sun is going to do it. Now that's going to happen on Saturday. So we're going into Saturday now. And the dynamic of Sun and Pluto, their square actually perfects the next morning. So we're going to get into the morning time span first. In some ways, we got asked the night before if we want to do something. And now we're doing it. Now we're going to the football game. Now we're going to the football party. I don't know why. I guess it's fall. It's hoodie weather. I'm just stuck on football. I'm assuming everybody's doing football things. You can be doing something else. But for my example, we're sticking with football. I haven't even watched football this year, and this is my example. Oh, the moon is in a trine to Uranus. There's an excitement. There's a suddenness. There's something online. There's something in communication. There's something unexpected. Again, you've been invited to a group event and there's like there's an unexpected guest like, oh, you live here again? When did you move back? Oh yeah, I ran into Susie a couple of days ago. And she said y'all were having this thing, so I'm here. Hi, unexpected. Didn't have to be terrible. It's a trine. Supportive. Like, oh, well, welcome home. Welcome back. And there's some catching up. A lot of people are going to be doing a supportive catch-up that is either healing or transformative. It is meant to be helpful. It is meant to turn some things around. Jupiter is in Venus's sign, and Venus and Jupiter go into their trine this weekend. It actually goes exact in the late parts of Saturday and overnight into Sunday. So in a lot of ways, there is a supportiveness that can be seen. However, there's going to be one or two people that it's not supportive, and it will result in the removal of support. And I want to be super freaking clear about that. So hear me out. The moon's trine to Uranus, again, early morning. We got somebody unexpected. We get an unexpected phone call. We've got something in the energy that's unexpected. We have the next shift of the nodes. The moon is going to square the nodes. Now, this is actually going to go exact between 4 and 5:30 in the afternoon. So for the most part of the day, like we're chilling, we're vibing, we're feeling really good. The moon will square the nodes, and that's going to be a little bit more of an internal thing. We've got this effect, whether it's the nostalgic, you remember whenever we used to do this in high school? You remember whenever we used to play football back in the day? You remember when we used to be kids? You remember when we used to do these things? Like, oh yeah. And there is like a shift in the dynamic. And if we're spending the entire day enjoying more than just a cup of coffee, we're feeling ourselves. There's an effect. For some people, it's a haze. It's an effect. For some people, we've snuck out to the garage a few times because we don't want to do certain things in front of the kids. There's an effect. There's an effect that's coming through. And for a lot of people, it's going to be fun. And it's nostalgic. And it's vibing. And it's joyful. For other people, there's an acceptance of a change and a transformation. And that kind of comes through when the moon comes into a conjunction with Pluto. I like this, but I also recognize that as much as we can be very grateful that mom, dad, auntie, uncle, whoever is turning something around, there's also another power struggle that a lot of us aren't aware of. And some of us were going to be super hopeful about this turnaround, and we're going to have a level of acceptance here. But whenever it comes to the Venus energy, this is where I said we're going to have a humbling that hits at the later part of this week. That if you are too leaned into the Venusian energy, there's going to be a long-term removal of support. And that is going to come through somewhere between Saturday and Sunday. The later we get into the vibe on Saturday, the more the effect of something kind of kicks in. I'm not saying anything wrong with the parent that we brought back in. This feels different. This feels like something with a sibling, something with our friend, something with a whole other person that, again, we weren't aware of a situation. And part of that has to do with the fact that later in the evening on Saturday, we have the first quarter moon. The first quarter moon is including Mercury at 29 degrees. Something's about to end. Something's about to change. Something's about to shift. This is a quarter moon in a conjunction to Pluto. There is going to be an issue with trauma and struggle and tension. Sometimes it's going to be something completely unexpected in the sense of like, we've let that family member come back in. I'm stuck on family right now because I feel like there are a lot of people. It's going to be where we've let somebody back in. Sometimes it's soul tribe when I say family. I have a lot of adopted family on top of the fact that I have a bunch of freaking siblings. I have a lot of adopted family. We've let somebody back in. We've let somebody into the situation. We're trying to open a line of communication. I'm not saying anything's wrong per se with that person that's trying to turn some shit around. But if there's anything wrong in their health, there's some pressure in this dynamic. And you can see something for the first time that changes your opinion of a situation. Vice versa, if you're having the big group get together and you didn't know that these two people have been fighting all week, I feel like some people, as Saturday goes into Sunday, they're going to see it. They're going to see something. Hear me out. Here's the quarter moon. It's exact at this moment. 10:30 p.m. The sun is at 28 degrees, 28 minutes. The moon is at 28 degrees, 28 minutes. That's one thing. As we keep going, the moon is going to square Mercury. And this is where it gets interesting to me. And this actually takes us into the 22nd. So we're technically on Sunday. We are on Sunday. But we're so late on Saturday, people aren't even realizing it's Sunday. So hear me out. Mercury and the moon start their square right after midnight. And these two will square each other while going into different signs. Mercury is about to end its mutual reception to Venus, and Mercury is in this instigative sign, just following a square to Pluto, while we're in the quarter moon's energy. And that can be an amp up energy. That can be a ramp up energy. That can be a push type energy. If we've had a little too much to drink, effect. Remember effect. Between 12:30 and 2 a.m., I was looking at my notes, sorry. Both Mercury and the moon in their square are going to change signs. This ends the mutual reception of Mercury to Venus. There's something about this energy that we see something in somebody else. There is a dynamic shift. Some people, it's just going to be a long-term conversation. And then whatever starts, it's like the idea that plants the long-term seed. But at the same time, if we're seeing somebody act an ass, and I feel like more people are going to see the acting of an ass, it's going to be that next wave of the removal of support. Now, Venus is in a trine to Jupiter, and this is meant to be helpful energy. But given the fact that Mercury is about to end its mutual reception while in this high dynamic square, in some ways we're going to feel that next barrier like confirm and just fall away. Like internally, we're going to be so happy that we let this person in and we've let this go. But we've got this other dynamic over here where somebody is going to show their ass in such a way that afterwards everybody's going to frickin' know. And that's what I feel is going to hit a lot of people. So this is 12:30 a.m. The moon goes into Aquarius. Within 20 minutes, Mercury goes into Scorpio, and they're still in a square. This is 2:30 a.m. Mercury is now at 0 degrees. The moon is in Saturn's other sign. As soon as Mercury goes into Scorpio, it enters a trine with Saturn. There is something over the course of the later parts of this week that we go from being working through something tangibly, working through physical events, that once we get to Sunday, it transitions into something else. In some ways, we're very, very grateful that we've accepted this elder back in, and there is a strong continuation of healing that can come through. Mercury is now in a trine with Saturn, while Venus is in a trine with Jupiter. We're seeing the effects of healing. We're seeing the effects of support. But not everybody's in that mode, and there will be some people that are in a self-destructive mode this week. The sun is still in a square to Pluto. It's separating, but it's still in a square. Mercury's in a square to the moon, and these two change signs together. Whatever was being instigated, that final little bit in the later parts of Saturday, once certain things get done, they can't be undone. Once you've seen somebody perform a certain act and do a certain thing and act a certain way, it's not easily undone. And I feel like there's going to be some people that get grabbed by that energy, that they're going to do something that pisses other people off, and it sets in a new fixed emotion or awareness that somebody's been acting an ass. How long has this been going on? How long has he been putting his hands on you? How long has this been happening? How long has this been this cheating thing been going on? How long have you been having an affair? How long have you been showing your ass? Here you go. There's a whole different dynamic from Saturday to Sunday. In some ways it's helpful. In other ways it's time for more people to be aware. Because you need fixed signs. You need that support of another person to make a change. This is that. By the time we get to the end of the week, it's not so much of a blank slate for Mars anymore. The moon squaring Mercury, by 3 a.m., we're past it. Mercury's trine to Saturn, that's going to be all day on Sunday. And again, for some people, it's going to be very helpful and supportive and hopeful, and that's great. For other people, we're going into a challenge. Now, when we get to the earlier parts of Sunday, so this is going to go roughly, yeah, this is fine. Between 10:58 a.m. Central Standard Time and 11:12 a.m., Mercury and Saturn, that's when their trine is the most exact. But we're in the energy all day. We need to talk about a change in responsibility. We need to talk about a change in somebody's actions. We need to talk to the authorities. He put his hands on you. We need to talk to the authorities. Mars is going to square the moon. Mars is pissed. There's a rage here. There's an adrenaline. There's an awareness of somebody else. The reason I said that Jupiter in the trine to Venus and Jupiter being retrograde, this can be another wave of losing support. The sun is now at 29 degrees of Libra. The sun is also about to leave Venus's sign. There's another removal, an ending, a shift in the dynamic. For some people, we saw the shift the night before. We saw an act or an action that immediately resulted in a changed opinion about a person. And that changed opinion needs to set in. It's going to take a couple days for that to set in. As more and more people are becoming aware of what happened the night before, they too will remove support. The sun is now at 29 degrees. The sun is about to leave Libra. The sun is about to leave Venus's sign. For months, Venus has been hosting a crap ton of energy. For months. And now, all of a sudden, we're going to get to a point that she's only hosting Jupiter and Uranus and the South Node. It's a whole different ballgame. There's a final effect and awareness that's going to set in. And it sets in over the course of next weekend, going into the new week. Mercury's trying to, Saturn, we need to get an understanding. We need to know more. We didn't know that there had been a power struggle, that there had been a struggle in the dynamic. Pluto's now direct, but Saturn is stationing. Oh no, you're not doing this anymore. I'm not going to let you keep being in this situation. You have a different level of support. All of a sudden, you have a different level of support to turn something around. Mercury is now in Pluto's sign. There's a different level of support for Pluto. After the moon squares Mars, we get into the later parts of the day, and the moon is going to go into a square with Jupiter. Now, this is interesting to me. Venus is full steam ahead. Venus is still progressing. Venus is doing her own thing. Energetically, the Venusian people are doing their own thing. And the moon can't see Venus. We're not seeing this person. We don't know what they're up to. We're just asking Jupiter, how did it go? How was the weekend? How was that event? How was the time with your kids? How was that time with your family? How was that time with your friends? How did it go? Well, it was really great for me. But then this other thing happened. And for a lot of people, whenever you're getting caught up, whether you're the Jupiter person catching up the moon, or the moon catching all the drama from Jupiter, whatever this dynamic ends up being, we're talking about somebody else that's not in the picture, that's not in the room, that's not in the situation. In some ways, the moon has absolutely no idea who or what Venus represents. This part of the transit feels completely separate from everything that just occurred. But it is also where we start to talk about this thing with another person, about another person, that not everybody was aware of. And over the course of the rest of the weekend, going into next week, there is something that ends, something that shifts, a shift in the dynamic, a removal of support, a removal of care. The next part of the barrier can fall away for some people. It went really, really well. Oh my God, I can't wait to meet them. I want to meet your friends. That can go well. But for other people, there's a humbling. There's a humbling in the dynamic. Sometimes it's really hard, especially if you don't pay attention to the transits the way I do. Sometimes it can be hard to understand what planet you're being activated by. So let's be clear about something. Whoever your chart ruler is, you're always going to go through activations tied to them. Anytime Mars does something, I know it affects me. Anytime Pluto goes through a transit, I know it's going to affect me. But for every year we live through one of our houses, and we have what's known as perfection years. And sometimes we get activated by an extra planet. And that's where having an astrologer do that certain dynamics for you is meant to be helpful. Because then you can know the extra planet that you're being activated by. Sometimes you will be going through Venus activations and you're being grabbed by Venus. A lot of people is getting grabbed by Venus this summer. They were doing things for attention. They were leaned into attention-seeking qualities, attention-seeking dynamics, attention-seeking bullshit. Venus, for some people, still has not learned their lesson. And there is a quality to the end of this week that really speaks to humbling Venus and removing more support. In some ways, that needs to happen. Some people have been doing certain things for so long that they have absolutely no idea that they need to be humbled by something. There's a humbling. Other people, the barrier, the energetic barrier between you and another person is getting removed. Now, I've said this before, and I'm going to say this again. Back, when was that? I have it written down. At the earlier parts of the month, so October 2nd to October 4th, Mars hit a conjunction to the South Node. And I tweeted about this. I've said this in the podcast before. If we were feeling rattled at that time, whatever was being rattled was something that was like pushing you to go do something, pushing you to heal something, pushing you to take something on. If you were feeling good during that time, then you were in alignment. There was nothing at that moment energetically that needed to be cut off, that needed to be healed, that needed to be dealt with. Some people were vibing whenever Mars hit the South Node. Parts of this week, some people will be vibing because they're going to be feeling a peace. They're going to be feeling a relief. Other people, they're going to get triggered to handle something, triggered to talk to somebody, triggered to do something, triggered. And if you follow the trigger, some people will be humbled. The ego will be humbled. A release to the ego. I've been waiting for them to do the right thing for so long. Are they ever going to, go to therapy? Are they ever going to do this thing for our relationship? Are they ever... And you're going to ask. You're not going to like the answer. Some of us. Others is just like, can we think of something else? Can we find an alternative? And when Mercury hits the South Node, that's like, alternative. Here, I've got ideas. Let's get through the barrier. A yearning to communicate, a yearning to go somewhere, a yearning to buy something. There can be a yearning this week with those hits to the South Node. There can be a peace. There can be manifestations, sudden manifestations, and that all comes down to alignment. South Node alignments are karmic alignments. The more in tune you are with your star player, the more in tune you are with where you're meant to go in this universe, the more in tune you are with your purpose, the more in alignment you are, the more you feel alignment. We get through the earlier parts of the week whenever the Sun and Mercury hit that South Node, and that's not early, it's midweek. If we get to that energy and a yearning isn't there, but a trigger is there, we're not in alignment, babies. We need to heal something. We need to work through something. The way you choose to work through it can result in the rest of the acts throughout the week. Some people, they have absolutely no clue that they're being energetically activated by something. And what you're going to see is over the course of the week, they start acting funny and funky, a little frustrated because they don't know what's going on inside. They don't know what's wrong with them. They start acting like an ass. The ass comes out. Be aware. Not everybody pays attention to astrology. Not everybody pays attention to when they're being grabbed by certain energies. those that do pay attention, you have a bit of a leg up. Like, you acting funny. You acting funny. What did she say today was going to be? Oh, look, the South Node. Yeah. I'm going to go in the other room. I don't want to be in this. Why are you running away? Shit. Yeah. South Node activations are really funny. And you can either manifest something that brings you peace, brings you joy, puts you more into alignment. I told this story in my meditative rant video about the South Node and Mars. The last time Mars made a conjunction to the South Node, not the one that happened earlier this month, but the one that happened 2 years ago, I manifested one of my puppies. I manifested my dog. And he is my dog. But I manifested that thing that brought me peace, that gave me more peace, that gave me more hope. There can be hopefulness to this week. There can be a manifestation of peace to this week, just as much as there can be rattling. Whatever rattles on that internal part in the middle parts of this week, for a lot of people, that's what's going to lead to the acting of an ass. That's going to lead to the removal of the barrier and the reconnections to certain people. It's going to lead to an energetic change in connections. For some people, it's going to be the final straw in another person's situation, and you know you're not going to put up with their shit anymore. Energetically, the final straw that will result in a physical final straw. For a lot of people, that physical final straw will be this weekend, because Pluto will trigger every insecurity. If you are not secure with yourself, if you are not in tune with your star player, between the South Node and Pluto, oh my God, the internal triggers will be huge. The deep-seated needs for healing will be pronounced very, very clearly. And what will follow in the next part of eclipse season is going to be working through those fixed emotions, that deep-seated wound, those deep-seated needs to heal. I hope more people are vibing. I hope people can take this energy of starting to turn something around and use it very, very wisely. But I know the human effect is some people are assholes. Some people are assholes. Oh, and assholes need to be humbled, however works with the universe. I'm not the judge of that. I'm not the jury. I just read the stars. I just let you know what's going on. Let me know, whether it's in the comments or whether you DM me through Instagram or WhatsApp or Facebook, however you message me. Let me know what activations you go through this week. If you get to Wednesday and Thursday and just that internal, this is what it is. Like, okay, what does the sun represent in your chart? Where is the sun located in your chart? What house? For me, it's 8th house. It's other people's money. It's other people's shit. What does Mercury represent in your chart? Remember Mercury's hosting Venus. Not everybody has had their humbling quite yet. They took offense to Saturn's energy. They took offense to it. We're not going to understand the full effect of what needs to get turned around and how things are going to be blessed going into this new cycle until we get through parts of this rest of this year. The energy wave that we're in right now will continue a continuous flow all the way into November. And it is like the last, I'm going to round it to 2 weeks. It's really like 10 days. It's like the last little bit of November that the gears will shift. Whatever we've been going through for the last few weeks is going to be a continuous wave of energy riding into all the rest of this month and the first part of November. A continuous flow, a set of events that feed off one another. for the most part. Not every single event, not every single transit. And if you have planets at the late cardinal degrees, this week is going to be more intense for you than it is for others because of the Sun, Mercury, South Node conjunctions, because of the Sun, Mercury square to Pluto, and the quarter moon square with Pluto. If you have planets in those late degrees of Capricorn, you need to be aware. You will feel this energy a lot more than other people. But it is time to turn some things around. We started the turnaround last week, whether that happened over the weekend during the Mars-Pluto square and Venus turning direct, or if that happened immediately afterwards, whenever Venus hit that opposition to Saturn, whatever that was, that came through in those few days. So anywhere between the 7th of October and the 10th of October, we might have lingered into the 11th, but something in those few days. It was setting the stage. It was setting some things in motion for what we want to do and where we're going next and what needs to be shifted for the new cycle that we're going into, because we are going into a new cycle. For some people, that cycle is only going to be 18 months based off of the eclipse axis. For other people, it's going to be for the course of the next 7.5 to 8 years based off the nodal axis. For other people, it's going to be the next 17.5 years because of the nodal axis. And if it has to do with Saturn, then it's the next 30. For a lot of people, it is going to be a long-term change because we're also gearing up for Pluto going into Aquarius, and that's going to last for 22 years. So we are definitely in a moment of transitioning into a new cycle over the course of the rest of this year. This eclipse season is meaning to mend fences, put people in their place, good, bad, and ugly when I say that. Some people putting them in their places, other people just like, this is your part of the chessboard. Sometimes it's both. You don't get your ass to your part of the chessboard. This is me talking to my dog. You don't stop licking my toes. He's a Pisces moon. He's a toe licker. I don't know why I felt the need to say that just then. We are moving and shifting into our places. Some people are not going to know the full dynamic of what has happened until next week based off of your signs. And if you are aware of that, good. Cardinal signs, you're really going to feel it. People with cardinal placements, even if you are not a cardinal rising sign, you're going to see it, you're going to feel it, you're going to, It's not a heavy week. It's really not a heavy week. It is a transitional week, but it's got some pops to it, and I can't deny that at all. We're all going to be in different places. So, let me know how it goes this week. I'm very curious to hear how a lot of you deal with parts of this week. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for the new people that are starting to listen. I love hearing from you guys, so definitely, make comments or message me through Instagram. A lot more people have been going to Instagram. It doesn't matter which way it goes. It's Spiritually Bougie Astrology. So you can easily look me up and I will definitely answer your messages as best as I can. Sometimes it hits those little like spam filters and it takes me a few days to see it because I don't just go check for spam. I don't. So anyways, I love and appreciate every single one of you. I hope everybody has a wonderful week. I hope that you have a lot of things manifest into alignment this week. If they don't necessarily manifest into alignment, then I hope you see the first steps towards healing. If you can't recognize and you can't put those things together and you don't know how to take those steps towards healing, message me. I will happily talk to you about your chart. So I love and appreciate every single one of you. I will talk to everybody very, very soon. Subscribe.